So Godzilla's pretty cool, right? Well, Dungeons & Dragons is also pretty cool, so today I'm going to attempt to create Godzilla as a monster for your gaming party to fight and or suffer a TPK from. I'm going to be using D&D 5th edition as seen in the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual, etc. And in my attempt to create Godzilla, I'm basically going to be splicing together features from all of the biggest and most powerful monsters in the game. The Tarrasque, the Kraken, Ancient Dragons, Giants, the Elder Elementals, Tiamat. Will this be usable, or will it turn out to be a completely overpowered and unbalanced abomination? Oh shit! Basic stats. Godzilla would classify as a Gargantuan monstrosity, possibly within the Titan subclass. Massive size and rock-hard armoured scales give him a natural armour class of
25.
His long stride gives him a walking speed of 50, and his powerful tail propels him through the water at an impressive swimming speed of 80. Ability scores. Godzilla's huge size and muscular frame gives him top marks in strength, a score of 30 with a +10 modifier. Likewise, his armour and his rapid healing ability give him a score of 30 +10 in constitution. You might think, being so big and heavy, that Godzilla would have a poor dexterity score, but when the time calls for it, he has been known to pull off some surprising feats of acrobatic skill. So for dexterity, I'm going to give Godzilla a not unimpressive score of 15 for a +2 modifier. Intelligence will probably be Godzilla's dump stat. He's not necessarily stupid, but as far as D&D mechanics go, the intelligence score is your ability to recall knowledge, whether it's historical, nature, medicine, arcane, etc. That's not really something Godzilla relies on, so he's going to be getting a relatively low score of 8 for a -1 modifier. Wisdom represents awareness and deductive reasoning, which Godzilla does have. Godzilla has been known to show keen senses and some basic problem-solving skills for when brute force doesn't do the trick. So for that, Godzilla's going to get a wisdom score of 14 for a +2 modifier. And finally, charisma, the power of personality. Now you might expect a skyscraper-sized force of nature to be bereft of such qualities, but you'd be wrong. On multiple occasions, Godzilla has displayed such qualities as camaraderie, humour, leadership, and even empathy. So for that, I'm going to give Godzilla a very respectable charisma score of 18 for a +4 modifier. Now that we have the ability scores, we can work out Godzilla's hit points. As a gargantuan creature, we'll be using the 20-sided dice to work out his hit points. Since the rules of D&D 5th edition dictate that a gargantuan creature occupies a 20 by 20 foot space on a battle map, realistically I can't push him too much higher than the Tarrasque. So we'll start with 35 d20s. We then work out the modifier, which is calculated as Constitution modifier times the number of dice used. This gives us the formula of 35 d20 plus 350, which gives us an impressive average of 717 hit points. Primary abilities. Naturally, as a challenge rating 30 creature, Godzilla has a +9 proficiency bonus, which allows us to calculate his skills and saving throws. As a big tough guy, let's give Godzilla bonuses to his strength, dexterity, intelligence, and wisdom saving throws. With his mighty strength, terrifying size, keen senses, and affinity for harsh environments, we'll give Godzilla bonuses to his athletics, intimidation, survival, and perception skills. Next up, immunities and resistances. Time and time again, Godzilla has proved that he is impervious to the meagre weapons that humanity throws at him, so we'll give him immunity to non-magical melee damage. He's also managed to endure the harshest environments that the world has to offer without suffering any ill effects, whether that be entombed in an iceberg or swimming through the molten mantle of the planet. These translate nicely to immunity to cold and fire damage. He can be affected by certain chemical substances such as cadmium and blood coagulants, as well as the highly corrosive effects of Hedra the smog monster, so no immunity to poison or acid, I'm afraid. Electricity has varying effects on him depending on which movie you watch. Sometimes it weakens him, sometimes it makes him stronger. It kind of cancels out, so we'll leave lightning damage out of resistances as well. Don't want to make it too easy when he goes up against Ghidorah. Condition immunities. Godzilla is steadfast and knows no fear, so he is immune to being charmed, frightened, paralysed, or stunned. As for senses, making his home in the abyssal depths of the ocean, Godzilla has Darkvision up to a range of 240 feet. As seen in a number of movies, including the recent Hollywood series, Godzilla can sense vibrations in the air similar to whale sonar. This becomes Tremorsense up to 240 feet, and with a +11 to his perception skill, Godzilla's passive perception becomes 21. No sneaking away from him. Languages is a more complex topic than you might think. Now, of course, we all know Godzilla's voice as an unmistakable high-register screech. But he also appears capable of more advanced communication. On a few occasions, Godzilla appears to have engaged in quote-unquote conversations with other monsters, including Rodan, Mothra and Anguirus, seemingly beyond the understanding of squishy humans. But since Dungeons & Dragons characters have the potential to learn whatever language they want, it would mean the DM would have to facilitate one-on-one communication with Godzilla, which thematically at least doesn't really seem to work for me, so we'll do it this way. Godzilla understands Draconic, Primordial and Aquan, but cannot speak. Special traits! As any high CR monster should, Godzilla gets 3 charges of legendary resistance per day plus magic resistance. He is amphibious, and thanks to his rapid healing ability, he can regain hit points at the start of his turn. His affinity for destroying buildings makes him a siege monster, and his great height gives him the reach necessary to avoid difficult terrain. Actions! Godzilla has a selection of melee attacks he can choose from: Bite, Claw, Tail and Stomp. He can choose to multi-attack as his action, making 1 bite attack followed by either 2 claws, 1 stomp, or 1 tail attack, but not before using his Frightful Presence ability to strike terror into the hearts of all who dare oppose him. Godzilla also gets his signature Atomic Breath, allowing him to deal massive damage at long range and instantly putting him 1 above the Tarrasque. Since radiation's not really a thing in D&D, we'll just use fire damage for the Atomic Breath. And some legendary actions. Since Godzilla's high health pool, damage output, regeneration and saving throws already make him pretty bloody untouchable, we'll just give him the 2 legendary actions, an attack and a movement. And if all of that's not tough enough for you, Variant. If another huge or gargantuan creature dies within 120 feet of Godzilla, he can use his reaction to absorb their life force, becoming Burning Godzilla, and gaining the following properties: temporary hit points, new damage resistances, an area effect dealt by the scorching heat of his body, and 3 charges of his nuclear pulse attack. If all 3 charges are used up or the temporary hit points are wiped out, Godzilla returns to his normal form. So there you go, that's my attempt at making Godzilla in D&D 5th edition. Is it totally overpowered? Yeah, probably. Have I overlooked some glaring weak spot? Yeah, most likely. Do I really care? No. I'm in quarantine, I'm bored, I just want to have some fun. Feel free to use this in your games if you wish. I'll put the full stat block in the description for all you Dungeon Masters out there. If you have any thoughts or feedback on how this build could be improved, or maybe you have some ideas for some other monsters I could build stat blocks for, leave them in the comments. We'll see if we can get anything out of this. Thank you all for joining me on this incredibly nerdy and indulgent venture. Do please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all next time. Is it totally overpowered?